Welcome to part 3, the finishing touches for your Photoshop caricature. This is Deanna Sheehan, and this is where we left off on our last image, the last part 2 assignment. So we're going to start bringing in our backgrounds and start adding all the finishing touches to make everything look like it belongs together. So the first thing I want to do is bring in a background here, and I found this one, which I really quite like. So I went to File, Place, and whoops, went a little bit too big there. And I'm going to place this into the document, and I'm going to move it behind Zach Braff here. You can see how the edges actually work now. We have to match colors. We haven't done that yet, so we're going to match those up. Either match him to the background or match the background to him, whichever ends up working better. And I think I'll probably start with adjusting the background and then going from there. And I think I want to move him now over because I kind of like the little monkey that's there. And he just looks very sad right now in this scene. So I do want to edit this just a little bit so that he looks a little bit happier. So with the final manipulation here, I'm going to go into my liquify tool. And just like we did on your image retouching, I am going to give him quite a bit of a smile. Even kind of open up this eye just a bit. And again, I'm not touching the pupil because I think it will look odd and it won't look correct. I'm going to make this eye a little bit bigger. Actually, I'm going to restore that for a second. Let's do this again, just to kind of show you guys, if you have stuff that's a little bit closer, how you want to protect that pupil. So if I wanted to make sure, again, that this does not move, I'm going to make sure my pressure and my density are all the way up on this, so that this does not move, so that it doesn't get distorted, because then it doesn't look human anymore. And we want to make sure that it definitely looks human. So when I bloat this up, that pupil isn't going to move. And I'm, just kind of popping that up a little bit, just so his eye looks a little bit bigger, because it wasn't really working the other way. And let's kind of tweak his mouth here. I'm gonna fix the little hairs on his lip. I'm gonna have to clone stamp that edge up, pull this lip out a bit. Definitely want him to smile, just so now he fits a little bit better into his scene. Let's see, we've got the room. I am going to add an adjustment layer, curves, and I'm going to clip it. We talked about clipping masks, and I like to name mine just because it makes more sense to me to name it. And I'm gonna I had a selection or a path drawn there, that's why I did that. Delete the vector mask, and we'll add a regular mask onto there. And go up to our curves adjustment here, and I'm gonna brighten this up. And he's very blue. He has a very cool tone to him. So I am going to go into the blue channel and kind of add some blues into this. And I'm going to pull some of the reds out just so it fits just a little bit better. And then I can go back to my main kind of channel here and brighten this up just so it fits just a little bit better. I can add another adjustment, and I like the color lookups for this. Only because it will kind of give the blue tone that I'm looking for. I'm thinking winter, warm, late sunlight. Let's go a little bit like that. I'm going to pull the fill down for that layer. And I'm going to call that bleak because that is the futuristic bleak. And I'm going to go back into another adjustment for this, which is our, where are you? The color balance. That way I can bump up the blues. Just so he fits a little bit better. And there are some reds in there, so I am going to go into the highlights. And we can go back a little bit with our reds. I want to darken this background up a bit. You can see how he's kind of lit like this, so we can actually add another adjustment over the top of this. And let's go darker. But again, it's a little bit too dark, so I want to pull that back just a little bit. And I think I want to add, and this is our make blue, makes sense to me, and this is our darkening. So I'm trying to fit things into the scene here, and here comes my background. So I'm going to merge all that together, and I'm actually going to create a blur for this. So I'm going to go into our filter here to kind of blur out the outer edge of this. You can see I've got this blur I can control over here to the right. So I'm going to blur this background just a bit. Good, and I'm going to click OK. So I can focus a little bit more on him, which I think that's much better. I'm going to slide him over a bit. And I can now start adding adjustments to Mr. Raff here. And I'm going to put a color balance over the top of him. And I do want to pull some of that yellow. Now it's affecting everything, because what I want to do is I want to clip this to him so it's affecting only him. Go into our highlights just so he fits just a little bit better into this scene. And I can bring in some more stuff like some balloons or whatever, but I think this is a good start for now, finishing him off. And we're going to finish off by really bumping up the highlights and the shadows on his face to make him look really caricature-ish. But what I like to do is this final manipulation here. I am going to make a copy of it. New layer via copy with nothing selected. We'll copy the whole layer. So layer, new layer via copy, or Command-Shift-J. And I want to commit to this mask that I have here on the side. So we can either like rasterize this layer or commit to the mask by choosing Merge Clipping Mask at the bottom here. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope. Apply Layer Mask by clicking on the mask. And I'm going to fix that hair issue we had before. But before I do that, I'm going to turn off my background layer. And we're going to do what we did with the, make a new layer here. Put it at the top. Unclip it. I'm going to call this Hair Fix. Like we did on our retouching assignment, where I'm going to use that smudge tool. I'm going to make sure I'm using a very hard brush. And again, depending on how long the hair is, you want to decide the strength based on how far you push or pull this. So with my hair fix on, I'm going to choose Sample All Layers. And this way I can kind of tweak that hair up a bit, only just to kind of unroughen the edges. And that's why one of the reasons I turned the background layer off was because I didn't want to smudge the background into this. With that layer off, I can now create this on a separate layer. And if I turn him off, you can see that's what I'm actually creating. Depending on how big or small your brush is, we can really kind of fix these edges by smudging the existing hair out, just so it just looks a little bit more finished in the edge. And I actually made my brush really tiny there. I can fix this little middle section by pulling some of these little pieces off, just so it looks a little bit more realistic. I can pull a couple of pieces off from here, just like we did on the girl on the left-hand side for that retouching assignment, where we fixed that edge that we cleaned up to remove our wonderful undressed up fancy man that we did. So with this, I can kind of tweak out some of the little fuzzies at the end here, and I'm following the direction that the hair is going so that it actually makes a little bit more sense. You don't want to just randomly put in pieces that don't make sense with the way the hair is actually flowing, because then it won't look accurate. So we can even fix up this, and we talked about fixing up this edge before, and that's what we're actually doing now. We're gonna fix this little pieces of hair up. I might actually take this off, but we'll see how it ends up looking. Just a little tweaking here and there. It's gonna make this look a lot better. So we'll turn these back on. That definitely looks a little bit better on his hair. The blurring makes a little bit more sense because of what we have going on in the background. He looks good. That eye is still bugging me. So I'm going to take a copy of it using my rectangular marquee. Command J will clip it. And I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger. And then using my mask again with my paintbrush, let's just blend that back in to the original. So we're just kind of going on top. Yeah, I just didn't look completely accurate to me. Good, and we're definitely getting there. The next thing I'm going to do is bring out the highlights and the shadows on his face to definitely make it look a little bit more cartoony, because I think that's going to really sell this. So I'm going to make a dodge and burn layer, but I'm going to use curves adjustment for it. So I'm going to go into my adjustment layers here. I'm going to go into curves, and the first thing I'm going to do is clip it so it only affects him. And here's my dodge layer, and I'm going to name this dodge. And I'm going to select the mask for this, and I'm going to fill it with black. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing again, curves, but instead of making a dodge this time, I'm going to make a burn. I'm going to clip it so it only affects him. And I'm going to call this my burn layer. And again, I'm going to fill this with black, and I'm filling with foreground color quickly. So I'm using Option Delete. And we talked about black hides, white reveals. So using a paintbrush with a low flow and a low opacity, I'm going to make sure my brush is soft, and I can bring out, I'm going to go even lower on this because I want to bring this up in steps. I can start bringing back those highlights and shadows, and I don't have to worry about painting outside of him because it is clipped to him. So even if I go all the way over to the edge here, I'm not too worried about it flowing correctly because I've already clipped it, so it's only going to affect his shape. So I'm following the existing highlights unless the light source doesn't match, and I think we're pretty good because of the light coming kind of from the back here. Just to bump a lot of this up with our highlights here on our hair. Bump this one up a bit. The back here. Pull that shadow in on the lip. I might replace the lip to just kind of blend a little bit more color into it of the original, just so that it looks a little bit more realistic. I'm going to whiten up his eyes here. Then I can go to my burn layer and accentuate the shadows. Can even tone back this one a bit, because we're really going to, and you'll see the difference when I turn this off and on, the difference with how we kind of forced the cartoony perspective a bit by just painting on the mask with those curves adjustment layers. it's giving us the kind of extreme shadowing that we want. So you can see, let's turn these off and then turn them back on. You can see the great difference that we have in kind of making him look a little bit more plastic, a little bit more caricature-y. And the best part is, because these are now clipped to him, they're only affecting his layer, which makes it look a little bit more cartoony, more cartoon-like in what we are doing. This eye I'm probably going to fix. I should probably shove this eye just a little bit to the right, which will work. I think he still needs to smile more. For some reason, I'm not getting that happy kind of look that I want. So I really want to kind of make that a little bit more comical, like that. And again, I'm pushing and pulling these a little bit more to the limit than I probably should. But I think that he kind of needs that happiness, you know. He needs to be a little bit more kind of smiley, even if it goes a little bit too cartoony for me. I think it needs to be. And remember, as long as this is clean, it's going to read right. If you're seeing the ridiculous blends, and if you're seeing any of the blends at all, that's what's going to make this not work. It's not going to force that, you know, realistic photo image of what we kind of want to get here. I definitely like that better. So I'm going to leave that as is. Again, make sure you're saving as you go. Make sure things are labeled over here. This was our add yellow. Final eye fix. And in some of the samples we've actually, and I'm going to take all of these layers, select them. I'm going to actually pull him down just a bit, but I do want him to fill the screen up. And once I'm done with everything, I like to add what are called mirroring layers on top, layers that kind of bring the whole thing together. And there are so many different layers that we can use to do this by going into our color lookups is a great way to do this. We can choose, you know, different, obviously not black like poster, but different tones, like adding this blue tone over the top of everything. But then again, by changing our blending mode over the top, we can get a different kind of result, and pulling that fill down will kind of bring it all together. I'm not real happy with the blue tone, so I'm going to go back up. And there are different ones. And if you click on these and you get this little open window, just click cancel and it'll pop into, I kind of like how crisp warm looks. Crisp winter looks good. I kind of like the warmness because I kind of pulled all those colors out. I'm going to pull the fill down just a little bit, and then I can change the blending mode. Yeah, that's definitely better because it kind of brings it all together. And we've got the colors in here, the highlights in here. I'm going to go back to my background layer. I'm going to put a solid color over the top. I'm actually going to sample the existing color in his face. And I can change the blending mode over the background to multiply and pull that fill down just so we know that the lighting color actually matches. And it's not, I mean, it's a difference, but it's not a huge, ridiculous kind of adjustment. We can also do a levels adjustment over the top of that, and I'm going to blow that out quite a bit. And I'm going to fill this mask with black. And then by using a gradient tool, I'm going to go to my gradient, Shift G we'll go through my gradients. I'm going to select the radial gradient at the top here and choose foreground to transparent. Make sure white is my foreground color, and I can change the way the lighting kind of comes into this image. And I can add a little bit more, a little bit more lighting back this way. And now I think he definitely matches. This is my light source adjustment. And this at the top is my mirroring layer. That's what I like to call them. And then I can take everything that I have done. I'm going to pull all of these together, put them in a group. Again, Command G or new group from layers. I'm going to call this the finished. And I do want to bring up the original layer here, which is our main shape. I'm going to pull that out of this group into the back so we can kind of see how we started and then where we ended up. So you can kind of see how far we've actually taken this. And again, if I wanted to add type to this, I'll quickly show you that. I'm going to grab my type tool and I'm going to switch from just the horizontal type to the vertical type tool. And I can call this Zach. I'm going to click my move tool. I'm going to move this up. And what I want to do is make sure that this type layer goes in between the background and my character layer. And I spelled it wrong. And because it's a type layer, I can size that up. Let's fix this Zach here. And I can go through some of my fonts. To get one that I think looks good. And I can go into my character palette here. And I'm going to change the spacing in between the letters. I can change the height and the width. Definitely want that to be a little bit thicker. I'm going to scale this back up. I can kind of peeking out from behind his head there. Actually, I might be able to, let's go this way and take all of these and move them over just a bit. Okay, now I'm back on my type layer. I'm going to slide that over. You can definitely see that it's Zach. I'm going to go to my background, and I know I have some room to slide this over a bit. Don't want any of those wonderful little tangents happening. I'm going to go up a little bit in size. Move that back over. I think that's much better. Excuse me. And then with my type tool selected here, I can take something from the image color-wise to get it to look maybe a little bit better. White might work. Off-white I think is probably going to work the best. So I'm going to lighten that up a bit. I'll slide everything back over just a little. Good. And the best part about this is I can actually take the pixels on his layer. So I'm going to right click, choose select pixels. And by using one of my selection tools, I can kind of move this over. Act like he's creating kind of like a shadow on those letters. So I'm going to go select, modify, feather, shift F6. Let's do a 10 pixel feather on that. And then non-destructive editing with this selected. Let's choose curves. And I can kind of create this little shadow on his, whoops, wrong way, on his the lettering. And it didn't commit to that. Let's use something different. Select, got the selection, feather, 10 pixels. Let's use levels. I think it's gonna work a little bit better. That's exactly what I want. I'm gonna call this shadow on letters. And even if it's a little bit too far over, I can actually select the mask, use my move tool and kind of slide it over and clip it so it only affects the letters. And by double clicking the letters, I can then add like a drop shadow to them. We went over this obviously when we did our web button assignment. Let's get a black in the scene that's not actually black. I'm gonna go into the reds though, add some cool to it. And there's your finished piece. Hope you enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing yours. Thank you for watching the tutorials.